Good morning, everyone, and welcome. This is Joe Scarice, your co-founder and co-host of the Creative Birth Strategies House and Podcast live every Sunday morning, 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, providing education, networking, and strategy. And we've tried to come up with a different subject every month, every week, with that's really going to impact you as a real estate investor, you as a real estate professional, and a strategist. So we're going to get rocking and rolling here in a few minutes. I'm going to invite some people in, and then I'll start inviting some people up. And we're going to dive into our subject this morning, which I'm quite excited about here. Hold on one second. We're going to be discussing working with contractors, a general contractor's perspective for real estate investors. And I think everybody wants to kind of dig into that and kind of have a decent discussion about that, which I think is important because when you're doing bird strategy or flipping, you're always going to run into different circumstances. But some cool things about that are happening this week. We are officially live on LinkedIn as well as Facebook and YouTube, and then we load up to Spotify and Amazon and Buzzsprout and all that stuff, and then we get it all out there in the big, huge web of things. But I'm really excited about that. Yordell Perkins of Perkatech was kind enough to hook us up and get us in there live on LinkedIn. So we're streaming live, and I want to welcome everybody that's listening in from there. I think that's a great add to us what we're doing, and I think it'll just give a little more activity. We're averaging roughly about 5,000 views a week right now, which I'd like to get it up there. We're doing a big announcement tomorrow morning, 9 a.m. on Newswire. We're going to hit 600 newsletters online about celebrating our 150th episode of the podcast. So really excited about that as well. And then celebrating our 10th year in networking events, Mr. Yardell Perkins and myself. So that was pretty cool. So we're going to announce that, and then me taking up the new position as a direct private lender at Truly Investor Capital as a regional regional sales advisor. So I'm really excited about that as well because I put the link up top. What it does allow um, direct to investor. It allows being a wholesale white label specialist as well as a referral partner where we could pay you marketing dollars in marketing if you sign up through the link above. So you could either white label and broker our money, you could come direct to investor, or if you're a real estate agent or real estate professional looking just to take a flat fee per submission scenario, you can sign up as a referral partner. It's all in the software. I want to thank our sponsors today, of course, Mr. Yordell Perkins of Perkatech, who provides all our social media, our podcast avenues, and all the graphic work that's doing, the Google team that we have, marketing myself, himself, the podcast, the events. I want to thank MB Capital Solutions, where I am a referral partner and provide unsecured business lines of credit for real estate professionals throughout the country, up to 150,000 per. Uh, um, uh, just the first unsecured business lines. We're providing really lines of credit up to 150,000 at a clip, getting people approved. So I've been working with them about 10 years. I want to thank where my real estate licenses are, where I hold a couple of events, Realty Solutions in the South Jersey market, TCS in the Philadelphia market, where I hold our white label courses coming up on November 15th. And we're getting real close to selling that out. We're at 20 people signed up. We're going to cap it at 35. We're going to be taking that white label course on the road. In December, we'll be in Central New Jersey and Perth Amboy. In January, we're in New York City. February, we're in Maryland. I think we're going to be in Lehigh Valley, Schuylkill County area, Poconos area, sometime in March. We're going to get it down into Delaware, Connecticut. Then we're going to get into Virginia, Massachusetts. So we're going to schedule that course, white labeling, how to underwrite, how to dig into it, um, almost every month somewhere. We're gonna schedule it. Whether I schedule a small meetup, we're never going to allow more than 20 people in the class as well. So I think that's going to be important. So let's get caught up on some news today. The week has been extremely volatile. Rates hold steady just above 3-year lows. Rates dropped into the fives again. on the DSCR, 1 through 4 and 5 through 20 on the multifamily. So your coupon rate starts in the fives, meaning your rate based on credit score, loan to value, DSCR, the appraisal will somewhere land probably in the late sixes right now, which is very good on 30-year fixed money. There's also 40-year fixed money out there right now and 10-year interest only money on a 30-year amortization. So money is still very inexpensive for the real estate investor. I don't see that, changing at all right now. I do see debt increasing based on certain circumstances. I think that people are spending a little too much money. I'm starting to see debt loads increasing. So keep an eye on that for yourself and for people around you, especially if you're a real estate agent and you're really concerned about their debt to income. They're trying to buy a home to live in. DTI is everything. On my side of things, it really doesn't matter much because I'm just strictly looking at the credit score from a soft pull perspective. So the regulated, I'd be a little more concerned. The unregulated, following guidelines, I'd be not as much concerned as long as the credit score is above, I'd say 640 right now. Our credit scores have come down in requirements, so and allowability. So we're getting very aggressive, the asset based lending space, in allowing people to get into the investment space. So some information on the rates. On the conventional side, rates started around 6.23 base at Friday close. So commercial lending and conventional lending is a near equivalent right now. Like, I mean, I'm quoting rates between 6 and 6.25 on DSCR, and conventional starting at about 6.23. So you're kind of then on that investment side, you're probably a little higher on the regulated side. So let's look at some articles that caught my eye this morning. Government shutdown threatens real estate heavy state economies. I could see this impacting where there's a lot of government jobs or jobs being eliminated by this shutdown. That would be a concern. I'm probably going to post an article about this sometime between now and Monday. Please follow me on LinkedIn. I'm posting these articles almost every day, different newsletters under the Creative Birth Strategies podcast newsletter, and posting it to my wall on LinkedIn. So if you're not following me now, please do so, and follow our moderators, of course, because they put some great stuff up as well. A builder's expectations on the rise despite market difficulties. I'm talking to a lot of builders. They're trying to get building toward the build to rent. They know there's kind of a slowdown on the buying in certain markets for home buying in new construction. So they're trying to get the cost in line to satisfy, maybe if they have to hold some of the portfolio back and hold it as a landlord, they're not leaving too much money into the deal. But there is a concern on that new construction fund. Money has gotten very inexpensive for construction. We're probably somewhere between 8.25 and 10%, depending on credit score, experience in the last 4 years, the complexity of the rehab or new construction. If you're a newer investor, stick to medium to low rehab so you can get that deal done. So that kind of leads into our discussion this morning, working with contractors, a general contractor's perspective for real estate investors. My investor contract relationships, they're the backbone of successful projects. The difference between paper profits and realized value often comes down to execution quality. What most investors misunderstand about contractors and vice versa, we'll dive into. I think understanding the contractor's world, like key insights from a GC's perspective, the cost of labor, materials, and subs, and how fluctuations impact bids, why contractors value clear communication, timely payments, and decision-making speed. How can investors stand out as A-list clients, organized scope of work, clear expectations, fast approvals? What I tell the investor today, you better understand your draw process with your lender, whoever you're doing your lending with, because if you don't understand that, you're going to upset the contractor's process. If they're completing work, they want to get paid upon it. So either you got to front that money or have that money available till you get reimbursed on that money, or you better have a really good communication on the draw process with your client. And you really need to understand the cost of labor, material, and subs when you're trying to put your estimates together to match up with your GC. Have a deeper discussion with them. I had a conversation yesterday with a realtor that I was on a Zoom call. He said, "Hey, Joe, please give me a call afterwards." We went through some numbers. I said, "Listen, you need to pay your contractor to come out and give a scope of work on this renovation on this property that you're looking to sell on behalf of your client." I think throw the contractor a couple $100 to come out and really get into a scope of work where you could sell that deal as part of the package. I said, listen, if that deal works so well, I'll buy it. So it was in an area called Pennington, which is in a really great area of Mercer County, beautiful with the corridor downtown historical area. And based on the comps that he was coming up with, he was somewhere between 850 and 9. So I said, let's use 850 and take 70% of that and back off the renovation. What do you think the renovation? He goes, I'm really feeling 175. Let's back off the 175. Will your sellers take that dollar amount that we're coming up with? He goes, yeah, absolutely. I said, now we have to hone in on that 175. Is that a real number, or is it really 200,000 with contingencies? He's like, I don't know. I said, well, then you need to pay a good contractor to come out and put a really good scope of work, because the opportunity for you as a licensed realtor is to get, you're going to potentially get both sides of that deal if it's a flip. I mean, I'm not going to buy the property in Pennington to rent it out when it's worth 950 on the back end or even $1 million. So I said, the most important number to justify me buying it at the number that we just discussed is the repair numbers, the GC numbers, structuring the relationship. And there's essential documents and agreements that you need to put in together, a detailed scope of work, which I can provide to anyone that's listening in today, a milestone-based payment schedule. And again, it's got to tie in to ensuring accountability on both sides and changing potential order processes. Like there could be work order changes to the draw process. Your contractor might decide to pivot in what he thought or she thought was going to go in order, right? And then you got to concern yourself with lien waivers and insurance certificates, and some common investor mistakes from the GC lens, constantly changing design choices in mid-project, unrealistic timelines. Can we get this done in 4 weeks when it's really an 8-week job, right? Underestimating permit delays or inspections, shopping contractors solely by price instead of reliability and warranty, poor communication, ghosting after inspection reports or payment draws. What great contractors appreciate investors? Quick decisions and approvals. Consistent pipeline of work allows better pricing and scheduling. Paying on time or early. You have to have that reserve base to take care of your GC, or the project will get stalled. Sharing the project vision. Pride of workmanship still matters. Referrals and public praise. Reputation drives their next client. How to vet and build your contractor network. Verify licenses, insurance, and past work. Asking for references from investors, not just home buyers or homeowners. Start with smaller jobs. A trust test before large rehabs. Maintain a contractor scorecard. Communication, timeliness, quality cleanup, pricing consistency, building tiered relationships, and evolving toward an investor-builder partnership. Why the best investors grow by developing relationships with builders, not just flippers. Joint ventures or profit share models, aligning, interests, and leveraging consistent deal flow for better pricing and scheduling priority. Success in real estate investing isn't about finding the cheapest contractor. It's about finding the most dependable. The investor who treats contractors as long-term partners with scale, faster, reduce risk, and build a true construction team culture. Amy, good morning and welcome. Brief overview, who you are, what you do, and thoughts to our discussion this morning, working with GCs, a GC perspective for real estate investors.
Good, Joe.
This is right up your alley.
I could talk about hours on this topic. All right, y'all. I'm Amy Palvido. I am the chairwoman of the U.S. PropTech Council, which is the trade association for the real estate technology industry. I have a room that follows this one, and I try to talk about what Joe's talking about. So we're going to be talking about construction technology in the next room. So just look out for that. But I started my career in real estate as a contractor. I was a GC. I could tell you story upon story about how owners and investors do stupid things. I mean, we would just we need more wine, Joe, for the topic because I can just go.
This might have to be a happy hour instead.
Yeah, I know exactly.
Bust out the mimosas.
I do have my coffee. I could throw some whiskey in it, and there you go. But so a couple of things. I think what happens along the way, right? So there's all the mistakes that you can make during the bidding process, right? But I think a majority of the mistakes that investors make are during the construction process. So do not use your contractor as a designer and not pay them. Like I had this happen to me like all the time, where they would like, "Hey, I really want to do this," and or problems would come up. Well, what do you think we should do here? And because they're in construction, so of course they're going to have an opinion, but invariably it's not going to be something that you want because you're talking through an issue and you can't see it. Nobody can see it, right? So contractor sees it and goes, "Oh yeah, you should do this," and tries to explain it to you, and you as the newbie investor who doesn't know anything about construction, right, we'll look at it and go, "Oh, well, that's not what I wanted," and invariably goes wrong. We stopped doing that like way into it. But I will say there's some technology out now, some VR technology that's super useful that contractors now can communicate to their clients going, "This is what I'm thinking," and they put this VR headset on and they can walk through the design and they go, "Yes, that's exactly what I want." So it solves that problem. Right. I wish I had that technology back in 2003 and 2004. I did not. But invariably, what happens is during the construction process, the investor will lean on the contractor, ask him to do more and more things that aren't a part of the scope. And the contractor doesn't want to lose the client and therefore will do it. But then when you do that, when you step over that line of beyond the scope, as a GC, you're walking into liability issues. You are losing money because they're asking you to do stuff that's not part of your scope of work. So you as an investor, don't do that to them. Please, dear God, don't ask them to do something outside of their scope of work and expect that you don't have to pay for it. All right, I'm on my soapbox, Joe. But that's what invariably happens all the time. We were trying to be good contractors. We're trying to help you out, and but you just have to, at some point there's a boundary there that you can't cross. And you as an investor, don't be offended because they're not choosing to cross it. Because you got to pay somebody for their time. You got to be understanding that design is something you would pay somebody for, and you're just trying to offload it on the thing. Okay, I'm sorry, Joe.
No, I think it's important. I don't think there's enough. I don't think there's enough emphasis in the scope of work, even with a client. I think when I'm doing a rehab loan with somebody, I'm like, "Hey, do you have a scope of work?" And they're like, "What's that?" I'm like, "Listen, if you don't even know what that is yet, you're not even at the starting line." I said the GC puts a GC bid together, and you need to transpose that into a scope of work for the lender so they can tie it into a draw schedule based upon completed work. Oh, we don't get all the money up front. I'm like, no, no.
People are making the same newbie mistake still, Joe. I can't believe I just had PTSD by this point.
I definitely question people with great credit and money in the bank and don't know that they're not getting all the money up front at this point of our lives. But hey, listen, there's no real estate project that runs with the same engine block, and there's no same client per se in this business. I sat down with a good colleague, a really good friend of mine. I consider him a friend. I consider him a business associate. We've made a lot of money together in doing loans together. He's been the investor a long time. And we sat down because he's thinking about pivoting and doing some brokering and white labeling. I go, I said, Al, I cannot wait till you sit in my chair and deal with an owl. And he starts laughing. I said, because I said, you don't see it. You see it through the lens of a real estate investor. You do not see it through the lens of the lender. He goes, yeah,
Right.
that might be really interesting, me dealing with myself in a deal. I said,
Yeah.
exactly. I said, you're going to look at
Yeah.
this, you're going to be that much of a better investor if you learn how to
Exactly.
underwrite from a lending perspective.
Exactly. And I think every investor should be a GC. And go through this process without a GC and understand. We had this happen to us actually. It's a very cool case. We were the GC on an apartment community project. Like we were doing the entire remodel, and the investor was trying to save some money and didn't want to use us, and they just wanted to manage a unit turn. I swear, by the end of that unit turn, they were like, we don't want to do this anymore. This is absolutely insane. Y'all make this look way too easy.
Yeah.
We're done. And I was like, yeah, see, because what we go through on a daily basis, we learn how to like walk through and mitigate everything that's going to happen prior to it happening. That's what a good GC does. Like we're 4 steps ahead of where the process is, trying to smooth everything out so to get all the ducks in a row. So when it comes to that step in the process, it's going to go as smoothly as possible. And you have to be on that all the time. It's 100% of your job as a GC is you're just aligning ducks, and that's all, and getting stars to align, and looking out for everything that might come in your way, and trying to mitigate all that stuff before it happens. So when you get to that step in the process, it can. But but nobody. It's a skill. To be a GC is truly a skill, and it's like why I don't do it anymore, because I have so much PTSD. I pulled my hair out so many times being a GC that I'm like, I'm good. I got the T-shirt. Been there. I'm good. But I would also say that, as besides, being a GC on a project to understand what they kind of go through, I really think that, I think that investors should really look at what a good GC, like know what a good GC looks like when it comes to you. So when, especially on the lending side, if somebody is presenting you a bid and it's just a number, don't take that as their bid. Like they need to, not only what you should have is a construction contract with a scope of work in it, with all the materials they're going to buy, a totally outlined, because they're going to go purchase those materials at the beginning of the project. So your first draw should be for materials. If it's not, or like at least, uh, general conditions, right? Like they're getting set up for the job. So you're going to have general conditions and materials. Um, and that they should buy, if especially for a house, they should buy all the materials at the beginning of the job, because y'all went through the painstaking process of figuring out what those were. So your first draw should be that, but don't pay for it till it arrives on the site, right? You want to make sure, and you go and you check everything is there. But they should have, as part of their bid to you, what the draw schedule should look like. Hey, this is what it's going to look like. Like, we're going to get through this part of the job. We'll hit a draw on this schedule here. Draw 1 should be on this date. Draw 2 should be on this date. That's what a good bid should look like to you. Like, you should know kind of what your draw schedule timing. Now, it might fluctuate a little bit because if there's always delays, and it could be outside of the contractor's control. But but you should know, and your lender should know, like, hey, we're going to expect to draw on this date, we're going to expect to draw on that date, and this is when we're going to be done. And 2 or 3 draws is plenty for a contractor. The one for the materials, probably one about 25 to 50% of the way through, and one when they're done. You shouldn't be drawing all the time, because that costs you money every time you do a draw. So, because they have to have the inspector go out there and check everything. But I will say that, with technology, because I'm the technology girl, a lot of this is going to get a lot simpler. The communication challenges that you had from a contractor to an owner should disappear. You should be able to walk around with a VR headset and understand what they're doing, and so should your lender. Your lender should get a really good sense of where the value of that property is, and then what it's going to look like post renovation. And technology can do a lot of that now. So a lot of the challenges that we had before should hopefully diminish, but we'll see. But and then as we get better and better with AI, and as we get better and better about looking at our projects and understanding construction costs and all of those things, and learning to mitigate some of the supply chain challenges that we have, I just look forward to a new day when construction is not so challenging. I might even become a contractor again, Joe.
Nothing wrong with
if
that.
it's challenging and it's easy,
Yeah.
percent of my headaches go away.
No, I agree with you, and I think with the workshop that I've put together, we're going to touch on the scope of work. We're going to touch on the right questions to ask. We're going to try to tie it back to scenario, thought pattern, and intuition, and hopefully create intuition skills in the workshop. So the scope of work, and I'm going to add some things, and we're going to go. Well, I'm going to come back to you, Amy. Scope of work checklist for burr or flip projects. This just Amy and I are diving into this. Exterior improvements. What is that? That's roofing. That's siding and masonry. That's windows and doors. Landscaping, curb appeal, foundation. So, like I was talking to the realtor that's in Pennington, and you got it. It's a historical area, so the most important thing to keep your neighbors at bay while you're doing this work is landscaping and curb appeal, right? And then what you have to follow the permit process in a historical area based on siding, masonry, foundation work, windows, doors. You might have to go to a specialist just for all the material for the exteriors. Okay, I was involved with something like this in Maplewood, New Jersey, which was a historical property. You cannot do any renovations unless it matched up with the historical society in that town, right? I'm just using that as an example. Then you got to worry about your interior, demolition or prep, demo fixtures and flooring and drywall and cabinets, removing all the debris, checking for mold or termites as you're cleaning all this stuff. You open up wall number two, you might not like what you find out. And then you got to make sure structural framing adjustments are reconfiguring on the layout. And then you got to look at your mechanical systems, plumbing, electrical, HVAC. Then there's insulation and drywall, right? Then you got to look at your interior finishes like painting and flooring, installing, new hardwood maybe. I'm not a big carpet guy. So like again, it all depends on where it is. I mean, I'm more inclined to throw carpets down. And again, kitchens. Do you need new cabinets? Is it a burr or is it a flip? Countertops. Is it granite? Is it quartz? What's the backsplash look like? Is it matching up? What are your appliances looking like? What's the plumbing fixtures and lighting? And then there's bathrooms. Are you going to do 2 baths, bedroom, four bedrooms, 3 baths, another half bath on the basement or in the kitchen? You got to look at the basement and the attic, and there's bonus spaces. You got to look at, are there leaks in the basement, right? Finish or clean that storage living space in the basement, right? Then you got to look at the safety and compliance, right? Handrails, guardrails, egress windows were required. Final inspections need to be passed. Smoke and CO detectors, right? Then you got to do your final steps. Clean interior and exterior, final sweep. Then you got to stage, photography if you're selling or you're renting. Then you got a punch list complete. So that right there is so important. That's where your home inspector comes in and does a home inspection about a week or so before the GC needs their last draw to complete their project with you. Why? Did the GC do all the work, or did they have subs come in? They might have had some subs. So allow the home inspector to come back through the place without the GC there and just do a final look through. Did they miss anything? Because then that final punch list completion could either be great and on point, or there might be 4 or 5 more things added that need to be addressed before you hand that last check to that contractor. That home inspector that you work with is so important in this circumstance, in those final steps, whether it's a single family or 4 family, or it's a small multifamily. Okay. Then supporting documents, like you really need to have a detailed cost breakdown by trade, a contractor license and insurance for everybody that's walking through your property, W-9 and payment schedule, before and after pictures for lender and appraiser, copies of permits and final approvals. I mean, right now, today, sometime in the next, going forward, all the inspections are going to be virtual. You're not going to have to wait for someone to come out. You're going to take pictures, you're going to snap them, you're going to load them into a software. AI is going to verify what you completed, and you're going to get your draw money. That's how quick it's going to move by the end of this year and going into 26. The entire draw process for bird strategy or flippers is changing in front of our eyes. Felix, good morning and welcome. Thank you for your patience. Brief overview, thoughts, and discussion to working with contractors, a GC's perspective for real estate investors.
Grand Rising, Joe. Grand Rising, everybody. Felix Buchanan Sr., Buchanan Biz Enterprises, the JLix Group, and team leader for Keller Williams Legacy Team. Of course, everything that y'all said is right on point because, of course, I do general contracting now still, and I always have, even with being a realtor, doing loans and all that. Amy said it best that in the beginning is when you really hone in and having your proper team and having a great general contractor. They're looking ahead. They're not looking at what's happening. Your first draw should absolutely be your material and your money for your permits and everything that once you put in for that draw, your contractor, which me, I don't even let my investors do the draw schedule. I do it because they don't have the understanding of knowing, well, why would I get this first? Or would you get drywall in this drawer? You do these certain things. And explaining that to them for them to fully interpret that fully is just, it's like banging your head against the wall. I really don't work with homeowners that much because of exactly what, she was saying, hey, well, this is what's on the contract. And if you want me to do something different, then we have to put in a change order because now that change order requires that whatever it was that the scope of work was when I was going to start this versus what it is now that you changed your mind on this or you changed your mind on these situations, that comes with the change order. And no, I can't do it for free. Because I've been doing it so long, if you're not my ideal client, I'm not even going to work with you anyway, because I don't want to have to go through the headaches of explaining that. I've done that. I've lost money in different cases because of the fact that you do it. And for them, it's their expectation that, oh, you're just supposed to do this for free. So definitely you want your GC to be connected with your lender. You definitely want to make sure that your draw schedules are no more than 2 to 3, as Amy said, because when you get to 4 and 5, them thinking that they're stretching the money out, of course, it's costing them because they have to come out and do those inspections. I already use Builder-Trend, so I've used Builder-Trend for some years, and I'm using them. So I already upload pictures for my clients. They can already log into a portal and look and see everything that's going on with the project. If in the event that I have a time clock on there, you can see when the contract is clocked in. I've always done before and after pictures. I even did do that with rental properties for years where I take pictures of what the rental property looked like before we rented it and even after. Just the making sure as part of your team that you really vet that general contractor and what they know. Materials important, where to get the materials from. Are they going to be delivered or do you want me to pick it up? Because there's a different fee for that versus, you're paying Home Depot $75, but they can't deliver the material until 2 weeks where the GC can go pick it up, but there's going to be a fee for that and why there's a fee for that. So realistically, just really scoping out what your GC knows. I had give an example. I went and the matter of fact, the Baltimore RIA that we went to, and I got one of the clients, and it was the lady and a good friend of hers. They were rehabbing the property. So, of course, my price was too high, and they went with another general contractor. So they were having an issue with the HVAC, so they called me back, hey, can you come take a look? Because I'd still check on the property, even though I didn't get the job, just to see how they were moving, newbie investors. So we went into the bathroom, and they put all the fixtures. They used a lot of the designs that I gave them, but if the person that's the contractor that's more experienced in doing it isn't the one doing it, it's not going to come out right. So we go into the bathroom and they're like, we're like, yo, the toilet is going to be too close. It's not the proper measurement. So the investor, he's like, well, the rough-in inspector came out and passed it. And we said, yeah, of course he is, because the piping is incorrectly, but he's not the final guy that's going to come out to tell you that the toilet should be X, Y, or Z inches away from the sink, and it needs to be this many inches or feet away from the opening of the shower door and all that. And we like, that's where you're going to get gigged. And now he's sitting there looking at it like, I can't even believe that. Yeah, because they're going to pass you. They're going to because the roughing guy, I don't know what the final looks like. Also, making sure that you make sure your owners understand that inspection and permit times can lengthy the project. We went 10 months waiting on an inspection in Baltimore City, and because of the fact that they implemented a new system in May, we're having all types of delays still in October. So just like Amy was saying, it's just so many different things, as well as what you were saying, Joe, like breaking down each particular thing, the basement, the foundation. These are all the things you're looking for, how and where water can come in, making sure that the property is pointed. People think that, it's just some mortar in the middle. Well, if there's no mortar there, then the water comes in from outside in the different elements. So pointing is important. Just a lot of the little things that investors just don't look at and calculate are things that you want to make sure, hey, like you were saying, you're going to break this wall. You don't know what you're going to find behind this wall. We don't have x-ray vision. We can keep in mind that these are what the miscellaneous things or the things that we could possibly find behind there, but we don't know what we're going to find until we open it up and see it. So that's my knowledge and wisdom for the morning. It could go on. It's a lot with this one.
Wow.
Wait, you should have whiskey in your coffee too.
I would think we need to bust out the mimosas. I'm a mimosa guy, man.
Oh my gosh, I'm like rolling. Everybody's like, I'm just like, yeah,
Well,
been there. Yeah.
That's what I was doing with you talking. I was like, oh yeah.
Amy, I just want to point something out with Felix. You got to remember something. Felix is in Baltimore, okay? And the rehab is so much different in Baltimore than in almost any other market. Maybe Chicago, maybe Buffalo. There's certain markets because the houses in Baltimore are massive. We're talking like an average single family home could be 3,000 square feet without the basement.
Yes.
Yeah, they're massive homes. So it's very hard.
It's a unit right now, and then we got one that's about to close next week. That I'm turning it from a duplex back to a single family.
They're massive. I mean, we're talking 3,000 to 3,500 square feet, just your average home. You got to remember the person that lived in Baltimore 100 years ago had a family of 6 or 8, and they're big, big homes. Very like if you go to Mount Vernon section of Baltimore. The houses are massive. They're mansions. They're literally brownstone McMansions. I mean, Felix, please stop me if I'm wrong.
No, you ain't lying. Even there and in Houston. In Houston, I think they waste space. So I'm gonna add a whole different element with doing building because I built a couple houses there already in 2022. But with the element of the space that they waste, I think that once I start building again, I'm gonna crush it there. And I stole some things I go to other places, other states, North Carolina, Virginia, and take ideas of things that now it brings a different element of what my rehabs look like in Baltimore as well. So I use that a lot, just the mind and the mental. But yes, Baltimore is huge. If you ever come, just let me know. I'll take you on a tour.
Be there. I'll be in DC in the first week of November.
Well, DC is DC is like a Baltimore.
I know. Well, actually, I'll be in Northern Virginia, but I'm close enough. Like it's
that's
Texas,
fine. It don't matter.
Like right
So,
San Antonio.
Remember, in the early 19th century, cities like Chicago, Baltimore, DC, St. Louis, even certain areas of St. Louis, obviously New York City, Philadelphia, they had the same architectural mindset, massive homes. Now, a lot of them have converted to multifamily, of course.
Yeah.
But think about it. If you have 3,500 square feet, can you really do a per square foot GC evaluation? Or you got to do it by the floor? You got to do it by the floor, right?
For sure. I mean, it's just crazy. Like what? Yeah, no, it's crazy for sure. I can't imagine. Like most, that doesn't sound like a rental to me. Like in Texas, the rentals are like 1,400 square feet. Like that's a rental home. Right? If that's what you were going to flip, you look for something between 14 and 1,800 square feet. If it was over 1,800 square feet, it was a flip.
But those are the townhomes in Baltimore. So the single family homes are the larger ones, but the townhomes are the ones that you flip over and over and over, which is so there's different levels of how the houses are set here. On top of it, that one block you might get 200,000 for, and then you turn on the next block and it's only 70,000, and you're like, what? Like, how did that happen?
Yeah.
So there's just crazy. So many, like, again, I love Houston more for you're gonna get more money, more land, or I just don't like the that they don't have basements, but you get that game room and man, to me.
Yeah, Houston's. Yeah, my dad lives in North Houston, which is it's called Kingwood, and yeah, I mean, you deal with different issues. Obviously, Houston, you're going to deal with a lot of moisture problems, right? You know, it's on the coast, and Lord, the bugs. Like, my God, the bugs. Yeah, my dad's insane. The amount of bugs that are in Houston, Texas. But yeah, but it's a great market, especially if you're on the outskirts and you know which neighborhood to be in. You could buy some homes super cheap in Houston, flip them and make bank. I mean, it's a good, and it's a great rental market too. Houston is. I mean, I had 9 multifamily properties in Houston. I know the market really well, and it's a great market. It doesn't appreciate like Austin, right? But it's just solid. It's like San Antonio. It's just a solid market. That it'll appreciate slowly over time, and you'll do just fine. And you go where the cap rates compress, and you'll make a lot of money. But yeah, it's not bad. It's just such a huge market.
And what's changed for Houston right now is that they have about 1 million people more than was supposed to come because of Austin becoming the new Silicon Valley. You had all of those California people move to Texas, and they don't want to all stay in Austin. So now they're migrating in like Houston because, San Antonio is more like for retirement. And, you know what I mean? Like it has great like shows and things you can see. However, it's more for people that's looking to retire.
Yeah, it's an interesting. It's all it morphs and changes and it moves back and forth. I mean, Texas overall is a great market. Yeah, a lot of people move to Dallas or move to Fort Worth. It just depends. And if they can survive the summers, they'll be just fine. They're going to be able to survive the summers. And actually, if they moved this summer, they got spoiled. They're like, oh, this isn't bad. Wait till next summer because you're gonna die.
When it's 100 degrees
for 100 days. Yes, I know. That's when we know who our fair weather Texans are, which I'm turning into, by the way, because I'm like, I'm going to go somewhere else. This is disgusting. Like, I got to go to Colorado or something. It's gross.
You guys are a trip.
Sure. Squirrel Joe.
All right. Well, let's get back into perspective. Yeah, no. I'm going to give you guys something else to briefly go over. So, Amy brought something up: general contracting your own real estate project, working with subcontractors, some strategies, and then I'm going to get some feedback from both of you. The investor GC mindset, the strategy is to treat your project like a business, not a weekend project. You are now the CEO of the construction project. Every delay, overage, decision flows back to you. Organization, communication, and leadership that determines profitability. Why investors choose to self-GC? Maybe save 10 to 20% on total cost GC markup, maintain direct control and design and quality. Now, I'm suggesting this to be for lighter, medium rehabs, not full gut to the studs, because there's coordination and chaos amongst trades, permit inspection compliance. If you're not pulling a heavy amount of permits, it's a low to medium rehab. I think you can potentially do it yourself. Building your subcontractor network before you buy. Understanding the categories: demo, framing, electric, plumbing, HVAC, roofing, drywall, flooring, paint, landscaping. Obviously, your subs are your mini GCs. The more dependable they are, the smoother your project runs. So the pre-construction planning equals profit protection. Final scope of work, drawings if you need them, contact sheet of all subs, budget and schedule tracker, scope of work, bidding discipline, break the project into trade packages, require 3 bids for each trade, clarify who pulls permits, use milestone payments, never pay 100% of upfront, scheduling and sequencing, the investor's superpower, communication and accountability, quality control and inspections, budgeting and contingency control, long-term average, build a reputable crew. My thoughts here, and then I'll come back to Amy, then Felix. The investor learns to self-GC with systems, not chaos, creates massive leverage. Controlling your schedule and budget and subs means controlling your returns, refinances, and reputation. Amy, go.
Okay, so if you're going to self-GC it's your first time, please, if it requires any MEP, don't do it. If it requires mechanical, electrical, or plumbing, just don't do it. If it's drywall and paint, have at it. Like you can handle that, because more than likely it's going to require an electrician, or it's going to require an HVAC, because your drywall is going to do something stupid and cover up a vent or whatever, and so you're gonna have to pull in one. So you're going to eventually get there. But what I'm saying is, don't start off doing MEP, because there's just too much complexity. If you've never done it before, if it's drywall and paint, or if it's siding or whatever, you're gonna have you'll dip your toe in the water of the complexities of stupid things that your drywallers and your painters are gonna do, that you'll have to go fix later, and you'll learn, right? You'll learn to mitigate some stuff. So start there. That would be my suggestions. And then, because as you learn to GC, or as you, and I think everybody should do this. I'm all on board. If you're an investor, you should learn how to be a GC, because not every project requires one. And so you don't want to bring in a GC if it doesn't require it. You want to bring GC when it's truly required. Like, it's a big deal. Because you know, first of all, if you're trying to do a small job, a good GC isn't going to be interested, number one. So you're going to have to learn how to do it. So what I would say is start there. And then learn the process. If you start small and learn the process, you'll be much better off. So that would be half nickel.
Felix, your input.
Agreed. Do something like flooring, paint, nothing major, nothing that involves any of the mechanicals, because again, at the end of the day, then you're going to need the professional to be able to show you and for you to understand. Partner with and find general contractors that are doing things that you are looking to do, so that it gives you more insight and more input on what will be coming next after you get from the point of doing like rehabs. Never, ever, ever, ever pay your contractor 100% of the money in the beginning. I'm going to say that again. Ever, ever, never.
Yeah, you only got to learn once. You only got to learn once. You only do.
Even it doesn't matter how small it is, man. Just
And there's not anybody in this room that can say they've never made a mistake like that or relevant. There's no way. It's numerically impossible. We're all grown adults. I think. I mean, listen. You know, you learn. I think if people learned it from the lender perspective, I think they would learn even like hyperdrive forward. And I think, you know, Felix, you've been at my mini class. Amy, you have not been. I mean, just in 2 hours, the 2 hour mini course, there's a lot given. If I start doing mini courses again, they're going to be 3 hours, but the full day workshop I want to do like once in a while. But I know I just don't get it, why people still keep making these mistakes when there's so much information out there to tell you not to make these mistakes everywhere.
Because you think that you know. So it took me all of the years. I was great at doing everything rehab, and I knew how to do the numbers strictly from a mortgage lending standpoint and hard money. I didn't really fully understand finances until a few years ago, when I started getting more into business funding and everything. And they're like, Felix, just like how y'all said earlier in the call, that being able to have a piece. I was a realtor. I was an investor. I'm an investor. GC. So it's different for me that to see it from all of those angles. When I learned what the financing side of things could do, it really just opened up a whole nother world inside of the world that I'd already been in for 20 years.
Yeah.
You know, so it's very important to learn the aspects of each part of the business. I thought that it didn't matter. Like, why does it matter? As long as I can get this funding. Once I learned that, I learned how to better maneuver through the hard money lenders. I know when I really do need to borrow funds or get family members to put up money and then move forward that way. Just that part is super, super important. And then going to your class gave me a whole nother level of insight. So it's very important to be in the room.
Thank you, Felix. And we're going to I'm going to ask Sophia to briefly pose her question to Amy. But first, Sophia, it was great seeing you last week in Elizabeth, New Jersey. Let you guys know, we were supposed to have this this class last Wednesday. Obviously, the Chamber of Commerce didn't pay attention to scheduling, because that's what Chamber of Commerces do. And they had another event at the same time where I was holding the event. They didn't market mine as much as they It was I guess it was a last minute political networking event, but Sevilla was one of the young ladies that came, and a couple of other people came. We ended up networking with about 70 people instead of just the 8 people that we were going to sit down with. It was awesome. So, Sevilla, why don't you pose your question and unmic and present that to Amy so Amy can give some insight.
Sure, thank you. Good morning, everyone. Sophia Fuentes, a realtor in New Jersey for about a decade, 10 years. And so interested in doing some investment. I'm new to the investment world. And so just wanted to get some information. I've learned a lot this morning. So Amy or whoever, Felix, either one, can you just clarify more of when you say get the MEP? Is it the MEP first? Get that done first, or can you just clarify that phase with the smaller projects like the drywall and the MEP? Can you clarify either one of them?
Okay, so MEP means mechanical, electrical, and plumbing. So it's your AC, electrical, and so anything with these sinks and toilets and those kinds of things. So you don't necessarily, not every job requires that you touch that. But what happens is if you do touch it, it requires a subcontractor license. Drywall might not necessarily require a license. It depends on your municipality. Where you are in Texas, it's like no one cares. But if you touch one of those where there's a trade involved, you have to pull a permit. That's why it becomes a different level of construction project. When it comes into the project, as far as phasing or whatever it might be, that is just dependent like on what the project looks like. And so you just need to know that even if it's like you're doing siding on the outside of a house, and you want to move the spigot, okay, that's plumbing. Now you got to get, because I don't know why you want to move the spigot or they touch the spigot, but sometimes siding, even replacing siding requires a permit. So you just have to know what requires a permit and not. And that's dependent upon the municipality that you're in. So that would be, and Felix, feel free to jump in.
Felix, jump in.
So I would absolutely agree. It's you just want to stay away from that without having the experience to do so. And like I said earlier, the best way to then know that you want to transition from just doing light rehabs, drywall, painting, flooring, like you said, siding, and in certain municipalities, they're going to require permitting for that. You just want to first prepare yourself for that, what that looks like, making sure that you get good subcontractors that are electricians, that are plumbers, that are HVAC. Because if you get a poor one or you get one that's not up to par, you're going to pay twice as much for those things to get fixed, because the next guy's not going to come in and say, oh, yeah, we can keep that. The next guy always going to say, oh, we got to take everything out and start all over again. So you then end up spending twice as much. And that's why it's just better to just go after the good contractor first, pay the extra money, because the contractor that costs more, even if you get 3 different quotes, the contractor that costs more or about mid-level is the contractor that you want to go with based off their experience, based off of whatever work that you've seen them do before or where they were referred to you from.
Great stuff. Great stuff, guys.
Thank
yeah.
you.
Hey, Sophia, it was great seeing you on Wednesday. Was that funny or what, that event?
Oh, certainly was. When I came to the location, I thought I was in the wrong place. I was like, wait, I think I'm in the wrong place. But yeah, it was very funny. But it was great to meet everyone.
Well, it turned out to be a great event. It actually turned out to be a better event. We had 70 people to network with. You know what I mean?
Yes, it was absolutely always great to see you, Joe.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
It turned out really.
And they gave us free food and drinks.
I know.
We didn't have to spend $1. It was great. Amy, could you imagine holding an event and you think you're going to have to spend money on food, and then all of a sudden everybody's bringing out food and beverage, and they're giving you free drink tickets?
That's awesome. And the drinks were really good. It wasn't like watered down.
No, it was a great spot. Guys, there's an area in Elizabeth, New Jersey where I used to hang out with friends of mine and used to hang out back in the 80s. This was a really rough area. Man, they have transformed this area. And I'm actually going to reach out to them on Monday, because I really think Chamber of Commerce's should have a real estate committee. Most don't. They feel like they're taking away from the realtor associations. And I'm going to tell you for a fact, in areas, especially in the urban settings, the realtor associations do not want to come into some of these cities for networking events and or collaborative events. And in New Jersey specifically, I have seen the realtor association stay away from Elizabeth, New Jersey, stay away from Newark, New Jersey, stay away from Jersey City, stay away from Camden. They rather have them in the suburb areas, their networking events, and there's such cute urban redevelopment going on in some of these markets where they rightly deserve the realtors that are working those markets to be able to stay within their in their area. They don't have to go out to the suburbs. And it is what it is, but I am going to push the chamber because I'm either going to do it or they're not going to have my membership next year to have that option for realtors in those markets. And Sophia or Amy, if you'd like to add to that thought, and then I'll give my final thoughts.
Just in the city. That's awesome. I'm gonna be in New Jersey. Like I'll be in New York City.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. You're gonna miss me. You're not gonna come and see me, or I'm not gonna come and see you.
See me.
What? When? What date? What date is it? Because I say what
20th, and I'm there all the way to the 23rd. So it's commercial. It's CRE-Tech, which it's part of New York City Real Estate Tech Week. So
Okay.
week I've got a bunch of events I'm going.
Text me.
Yeah, I will. I'll text you.
And text me your availability. I will come into the city to meet you personally.
Yeah.
Because I don't think you're real. I don't think you're real because I came to Texas. I couldn't meet you. I think you're just not.
You tell me that.
Yeah, I would love to come into the city to meet you. I'm in South Brunswick, New Jersey, but as Joe said, I go all over. And Joe, I agree with you as far as some of the areas. I really was surprised about Elizabeth, the area where you held the event. They were building up. I was really surprised to see some of those townhouses and condos and
Sophia, I'm telling you, you'd be scared for your life if it was 25 years ago in that same spot where we were sitting. I'm not kidding you. It was terrible. It was a terrible area. Okay. Prostitution, drug distribution, chaos. It was you didn't feel that vibe at all where we were at all. And I think the associations are really not looking into this the right way. And I am going to push this tomorrow as a narrative for myself with that. I'm going to get somebody on the phone and kind of give my thoughts to offering that. So my final thoughts in this discussion that we had today, working with GCs as a real estate investor, trust your GC as a strategic partner, not just a hired vendor, right? Partnership over project. Detailed scope of work equals control costs, right? Always start with a written scope of work that's itemized, dated, signed by both parties, including materials, finishes, change orders, procedures, clear payment schedule tied to verified milestones, not just dates. Clarity needs to prevent cost misunderstandings. Documentation protects everybody, contracts, permits, lien waivers, inspection records, communication early and often, update rhythm. Set a update rhythm. Incentivize performance. Good contractors are busy. Respect your time and reward good work. Align on the exit strategy. Whether you're flipping or executing a BRRRR refinance, your GC must understand your end goal, appraisal expectations, rent ready standards, and lender inspection requirements differ from retail flips. Build your investment strategy, not someone else's template. Trust but verify. Conduct your own walkthroughs, photo documentation, and punch lists before every draw. Independent third-party inspections can also add leverage for accountability, especially with larger or multi-phase rehabs. Bottom line, your GC can make or break your BRRRR or flip. Build the relationship as intentionally as you build the property. The right contractor partnership turns construction into a repeat, turns construction chaos into repeatable, scalable profit, right? So you got to keep all this in mind. Well, we're laughing, giggling, having a lot of talk, but this is serious. And if you're a real estate agent listening before, not just an investor, and you're representing somebody, you're not going to get that client again if you misrepresenting something. I'm telling you for a fact. I see it all the time. Okay. The better realtor is taking advantage of the opportunity of leveraging three very important numbers: that after repair value or stabilized value, depending on it's a BRRRR or a flip. They're honing on the repair numbers by putting together a scope of work for their investor or for potential buyer investors. and they know what the buy box is backing into those numbers based on the qualifications of non-QM financing. I want to thank our sponsors today: Percatech, MB Capital Solutions, Realty Solutions, TCS Property Management, Real Estate Mastermind Strategies, celebrating 10 years of networking, education, and strategy. Uradell and I have been partnering for the last decade in networking events, which, and we're celebrating our 150th episode on the podcast. We're live now on Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube during the process. And then we shoot it through Buzzsprout, and then we get it into all the social media buckets such as Spotify, Amazon, Audible, all those great spots that we market. We're getting 5,000 views a week. I'm really excited about where we're going. Big announcement on Newswire going out tomorrow. The 600 newsletters online. We're getting a lot of views. Why haven't you spoken to Amy, Felix, and Sophia? Right? These are dedicated people that come by every week on Sunday mornings, 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Okay. Why aren't you at least not signing up as a referral partner and or white label broker to my link? Let's build a relationship together through the podcast, through events. Why don't we co-host a white label underwriting course in your market, whether it's Baltimore or Texas or Central New Jersey? I have one coming up in Perth Amboy, Sophia. Felix, I'm working with Shiny. Hopefully she'll get back to me on hosting an event in Baltimore on this subject. I think this is important. This is the backbone to all our discussions, is the financing piece. There is more money than real estate right now in the market. There's more money than real estate opportunities in the market, and it will stay that way for the very, very long future. I don't think it's ever going to not be anywhere otherwise for the time, at least for the next decade. So we're here every Sunday morning, 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, providing education, networking, and strategy. This is a great subject, and I always try to finish off with a quote, and then we always lead it into Amy's event when she's her room after this to follow. The unthankful heart discovers no mercies, but the thankful heart will find in every hour some heavenly blessings. Henry Ward Beecher. Have a great week. Stay in touch. Anything we can help you with, we're all here for you. It's a big team effort. And I'll be ending the room in the next 30 seconds. And thank you.